Okay, so that's the lineup, and it got kicked off finally July 13th, 2024 in West Palm Beach, Florida. That was the first show. And there's been a couple of others since. I've actually got the whole show list. I don't know if we're going to read. I mean, I might skim through it, and it is 28 shows. Which was what he was talking about 8 months ago. They did put a 28 show list together. And there's a couple of stops in California, and I mean they're probably both 300 miles from where I live. And I can tell you, based on what I'm hearing from you, Michael, and I'll be watching some of those videos too. I don't know that I would drive 300. I did that over the weekend. I drove 300 miles each way. Take my wife down to a kind of girlfriend's reunion at one of her friends' houses down there. We took her down there.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, since you're kind of brought that up, Royce.
Okay.
My problem with this tour is, first of all, Live Nation.
Okay.
At the venue that was closest to me.
Right.
The cheapest seats have no seats. It's a lawn area, and that's $97. Right. That's $97. Now, to get front row or in the front section, anywhere in the front section, it's actually like row 8 back, but still real close to the band. Almost $2,000. Here we go again. Live Nation and their sticky, icky, dicky ooze. All right. So that is a problem that I see with this tour.
That's a very big problem.
Right. Then I have a problem with how they're they're billing this as Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony, Joe Satriani, and Jason Bonham. But they got Yanni up there, or a Yanni look-alike on keyboards. Yeah. All right. And his keyboard setup is at least as involved as Jason Bonham's drum set. And he's padding out their sound all over the place, even doubling guitar parts. And nobody knows who he is. At least they're not hiding him behind the curtains.
They're not hiding him, but they're not talking about him either.
Like Fleetwood Mac would do, right? But they're not giving it his due. I mean, who is this guy? I tried to do a quick, I'm not that interested. But I did do a quick research, and all I got was these 4 guys' names. All right,
Michael, I did exactly the same thing. I wasn't that interested. He wasn't one of the marquee names, but I never could find who he was.
I did ask, who is this? Who is the keyboard player that's touring with Sammy Hagar in 2024 with Joe Satriani? And I still couldn't get any information.
I did the same thing.
Right, and so anyway, and he's probably the single best musician up there. He's somebody in the industry. He's not, but I don't know who he is. Good looking fella. If you like that Yanni kind of romantic novel kind of look, but then that leads us to Jason Bonham. Jason Bonham is drumming beneath his capabilities because, I'm sorry, Van Halen had a great drummer, but not one of the best drummers in rock. And Jason Bonham has shown that he is at least a contender for one of the best current drummers in rock. So he's not doing anything he couldn't do in his sleep. Okay. I'm not going to go see this concert to see Jason, because I'm not going to get to see Jason do what I'd rather see him at a drum clinic, please. Okay. Then we get to Michael Anthony, who's having a ball. He's playing great bass. Supplying some wonderful low ends. I love that. So the keyboard player, Michael Anthony. Now we get to the star, Sammy Hagar. Every song is tuned down, not 1 half step, not 2 half steps, but 3 full half steps. And Sammy is still having trouble hitting those high notes. And guess what? When you go that far down in half steps, especially when you've got a bass guitar, the bass either has to go down that low, or he has to play in different registers to make up for not having to drop 3 full half steps, or the guitarist goes down that low, and it muddies the sound. Now, after I've said that, folks, and you guys are done with us tonight, go over and watch some of these concerts and tell me that sound isn't muddy. Now, a lot of the footage is taken through iPhones and whatever, but just realize I can listen through even an iPhone recording and tell the basic mix. I've got enough musical knowledge and recording knowledge. I can tell you right now, there is a muddiness, and it's because they've tuned down, right?
Okay.
So those are my concerns, with the current project, and the fact that it comes out of a civil war, and we haven't even talked about Wolfgang and Valerie, and
there's something that's brewing there.
And it should be noted that Sammy Hagar he felt stabbed in the back by Eddie, because before Eddie brought on new management, Sammy Hagar ran the band. He said it was my band, and before I was there, it was David's band. They just had the brother's name in the band, but I was the leader of that band. And so Eddie hired the manager and edged Sammy out.
And that's the manager played a big role. The manager played a big role in that, because he kept telling Eddie, Sammy keeps saying it's his band. Sammy, and pretty soon Eddie got pissed off and finally fired him. For better or for worse, Sammy Hagar and Eddie Van Halen will always be, kind of joined at the hip, intertwined, however you want to put it. On the Howard Stern show, Howard Stern said to Sammy, he goes, what happened? You guys look like you were 100% in sync, man. You guys were a great team together. And Sammy says, well, for the first 9 years, that was exactly the way we were, and everything sort of changed the 10th year. And a lot of it had to do, and you'd brought this up before, Michael, their current manager died, and somebody else came in and took his place. And he was kind of a troublemaker. He kept pointing out that Sammy Hagar was calling it his band, it was my band. And that started to cause a lot of trouble. And so the riff came together, and it was right around the time they were recording the album Balance is when it really got out of control. And so they split up. They did have a tour, kind of a tour with a similar name to the one we're talking about now, kind of the End of the World Tour or something like that. And they got back together, and then they started fighting again, because there was something wrong with Eddie's playing. He was making a lot of mistakes, and Sammy Hagar was just getting on his butt about it. What the hell's wrong with you? And so that was really causing a lot of fighting. Well, what Sammy Hagar didn't know was Eddie's cancer had really advanced, and Eddie had known that he had tongue cancer, but he thought that was all under control and everything was cool. But no, most people didn't know just how bad Eddie's cancer had gotten. So it took a long time for them to reconcile from that. In fact, it was some comedian, Lopez, I think's his name, came to Sammy and said, "Hey, man, Eddie's dying, man. You need to go reconcile with him." And Sammy, sorry, I'm throwing their names back and forth. He said he went and they made friends again, and he said it was beautiful.
There was the Sam and Dave tour, and this whole thing between Sammy and David Lee Roth.
David Lee Roth, yeah.
Yeah, because Sammy's side of the story was that the band tried to get him to come out and he could sing one of his songs, and Sammy would play guitar on it. He wanted, besides them just covering their own songs, he wanted to do it, and they finally talked him into it. And the very next day, they went to his dressing room and knocked on the door, and all they got was, "Dave's not here." And they go, "Well, no, we're here. We're going to talk about it. Dave's not here."
You're kidding me.
I mean, yeah, and David Lee Roth is known for shenanigans like this. And they could never ever. It got so bad. It got so bad that while they had to separate themselves, and while one of them performed, the other was not allowed in the building.
Oh my God, you're kidding me.
So no, I'm not kidding. And he said that David Lee Roth has to have things exactly his own way, but he isn't consistent, and his word is not worth shit. But this has been a war. This has been a war leading up to this concert. You know, David Lee Roth wants to do it. And then Sammy wants to do it. No, Wolfgang won't allow it. Wolfgang's doing his thing. Nobody, this part of the band won't play with that part of the band. And it's just a sad state of affairs compared to if they all got their heads out of their asses. They could do a great tribute to one of the best guitar players that ever lived.
That's really, you know, and Wolfgang is getting really good too. I've been watching him play, you know, Dad's music, Dad's way, you know, on a few videos lately, and the guy's really. I
have no trouble with, you know, as you know, I had no trouble with Jason Bonham filling in for his dad. It didn't make them Led Zeppelin, but it sure made them close.
It was going to be as close as we were ever going to get. That's
we could ever possibly get. There was even a DNA connection. A human DNA connection, you know.
Yeah.
So and
we're not talking avatars. We're talking DNA. You know?
And to be honest with you, that was the first time I had ever heard Jason Bonham, and I've been trying to catch up on what he has to offer, and I've heard him play some great stuff. But this concert, he's just covering for a very good drummer, but not, you know, it's not like he's got to cover John Bonzo Bonham, or he's got to cover Gene Krupa, you know. He's just got to cover, you know, Van Halen's material. And I feel like they've got him on a harness, first of all. And I didn't notice him doing a lot of the backing vocals, and he's a fine vocalist. But maybe I just didn't see the parts where he is doing it, or they've got the camera off him when I saw that. But I kind of see he's just up there so they have a four-man marquee, really. Because he's not being challenged. Satriani, I haven't listened close enough. If he goes off on his tangents, then that's good for him. But there is a murky mix here, and it's because they're tuning down. And there's way too much keyboards and backing shit being played by Yanni, the keyboard player. And it's so obvious visually when you're looking at him. His station, you know, there's the three front men, and then on the riser is Bonham and this Yanni guy.
But up on the right is Yanni,
Yeah, and it looks like he's got, he's got at least four different keyboards, and they're L-shaped. He might have more. I didn't look that close. So each one triggered to sound like something that was on the record, and you hear a lot of pad to the music. You know what I'm talking about? That padded sound of keyboards from the 80s. That's what you hear on this, the pads. So that's my only criticism, but the keyboard player is actually it's a good thing, because he adds a little bit of sparkle to that murkiness I'm hearing with the bass and the guitars. All right. Not that Michael Anthony isn't playing some great bass. He is.
I'm sorry to hear that it's gotten murky.
Yeah. And as far as I can tell, his timing, oh God, they had some boom, 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 and he hit it in the bass drum just so microsecond on, you know, and I'm going, live. All right, they're keyed in, you know, they're not messing around. Everybody up there is being serious. It's just they have less to offer this late in the game, I think.
We've got fans here wanting you to talk about the new Deep Purple album, if you don't mind.
I love it. I love it. As a matter of fact, folks, I even got it over on my channel. It's the I've got it tagged for those who are not my subscribers as the first video to see. It's done relatively well. It's gotten about, it's on its way to 8,000, 7.6 at last check. So It's gotten a lot of views. I'm real proud of that video because I give each and every song, you'll see a rollover on what it is. And I gave it a 1 to 5 star rating, each song out of the 13 songs. 2 of the songs, you'll have to watch it to find out which ones. I'm a shameless promoter. But of the songs, got what I consider 3. Now, to me, a 3, if a 3 song on an album happens on a 3 song on one side, a 3 song on the other side, and the rest of the album's great, that's going to be a good album. All right. The others either got a 4, or 2 of the ones that got 4s got 4.5, and the remaining, I think 5 of the songs, I gave 5 stars. I gave the album in general an A-, and that's me being hypercritical on it, and that makes it. I don't consider it a classic rock masterpiece, but I consider it a classic rock album, a solid album that everybody, especially if you're a Deep Purple fan, should have in your collection. It's a wonderful album, and Simon McBride has offered nothing but a transfusion to this band. This band still has something to say.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I want to
There's a miracle for you, Royce.
Right on.
That's a miracle right there.
Yeah.
I mean, especially this year. Think about it. Last year, we were covering such great albums as Mirror to the Sky, Hackneyed Diamonds, Midnight Rose by Paul Rogers, just before Patient Number 9. We had a plethora of great albums. This year, it's been lean. It's been lean. But this has been the golden spot.
How about the keyboard player and the keyboards on the Deep Purple album? I was kind of blown away with that.
Don Airy. Yeah. He's been with the group for a while during the Steve Morse period. And since I was not a major Steve Morse fan and I dropped away from listening to them during his period, but I'm re-listening because now I hear Airy with Simon, and Simon really freaking impresses me. And the 2 of them, my only criticism why this wouldn't be a masterpiece is, they go to the trouble, first of all, don't think Airy's going to sound like John Lord on every cut, although there are about 5 or 6 cuts he does because he's playing the organ, but often he's playing synthesizers and other keyboard parts, and he trades riffs with Simon McBride. Okay, so you got Airy and McBride trading riffs, whereas the Deep Purple Mark II that I like with Ritchie Blackmore and John Lord, they would trade riffs and then they'd intertwine, both playing this massive crescendo and bigger. But one of the reasons they don't do that is they also keep these songs short. I think there's one song close to 5 minutes, maybe slightly over, slightly under. All of these songs are pretty short and to the point, and all of them are Class A rockers. Even the 3s are pretty damn good rockers. There's only 2 slow songs. One of them I gave a 3. That's one of the ones. It's toward the end of the album that I would have not included. Those 2 I wouldn't have included. Made it a single album. It is a single album, but you can't put it out as a single album on vinyl because of its 51-minute length. All right. Okay. So what they had to do is split that. And so since they did that, they also made it a 45 RPM album, which you have to go to the extra step. Okay, 45. But other than that, and you have shorter sides because of that.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that now on the double albums.
So those are my criticisms over the album as far as physical media go. But I would imagine on CD, if that's your media, or I listened to it also before mine arrived. I was listening to it because mine was a day late on iTunes, and it sounded, no problem. But I did note, and I said this in my video, I did note toward the end of the album, I'm feeling like, okay, it could end any time now. this has been a good ride, but it's kind of another loop. Okay, but
Another loop,
so
right.
I think it's 2 songs too long. And if
Okay.
those 2 threes were taken off, then we might be talking about a masterpiece,
Right,
But it's
right.
good. It's good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that.